continue to feel warm in that sunshine.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Significant disruptions are affecting UK roads due to closures and incidents. The A898 northbound Erskine Bridge is closed for essential roadworks with diversions signposted. Motorists on the M4 should anticipate diversions between junctions 45 and 46 for safety inspections. In Norfolk, an A11 incident has reduced traffic to one lane, resolving by 8:15 p.m. Kent's M26 eastbound faces delays from a lane-blocking collision. And on the trains, cross-country travellers between Leicester and Nuneaton should expect disruptions. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Daubney, they're coming up on the show tonight.
The invasion, and I use the word invasion because that is exactly what it is, of hundreds and thousands of undocumented men is placing women and girls in grave danger.
Well, they're calling it an invasion on tonight's show. I'll be joined in the studio by one of Reform UK's politicians leading the charge to protect women as the party holds its latest event in its Broken Britain campaign. And on that note, some astonishing shock new polling seen exclusively by GB News has revealed something very, very sinister about how our pensioners are feeling in the UK around their safety. Heartbreaking data, eye-opening data, something we need to act upon. I'll be speaking to the man who made this astonishing discovery. Meanwhile, on a move of mass bureaucratic sorcery, 150,000 migrants have simply gone missing, and you're not going to believe how. Plus,
the net overall cost is therefore £3.4 billion overall.
£3.4 billion, I hear you saying. Well, was the Prime Minister telling the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Or was it half-truths or even one-tenth truths? And he said that was the cost of the Chagos deal. We'll also be looking at how Sir Keir Starmer could be facing the same fate as Sir Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson, beg your pardon, amidst new allegations of misleading the House of Commons over his Chagos deal. Welcome to the show. Just gave Boris Johnson a premature knighthood there. Now, on tonight's show, I'll also be joined in the studio by GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson, throughout the show. That means we're going to have a few good old ding-dongs. But first, here's the latest news bulletins with Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 7:02. A fresh government effort to deport foreign national offenders is the sort of stuff that they should have been doing on day one. That's according to the leader of the Conservative Party. Kemi Badenoch made the comments as more foreign criminals will be deported before their appeals are heard, as the Home Office adds 15 new countries to its Deport Now, Appeal Later scheme. Canada, India and Australia are among the new additions, taking the total to 23, with Home Secretary Yvette Cooper vowing to stop offenders exploiting our immigration system and fast-track removals. Also today, Kemi Badenoch has suggested migrants currently housed in hotels could instead be held in camps, as the number of English Channel small boat migrants nears 50,000 since Sir Keir Starmer took office. President Trump says he will tell Vladimir Putin to end his war in Ukraine during his meeting with the Russian leader on Friday. The president described Friday's summit as a feel-out meeting. He added that some land swapping will happen for the good of both Ukraine and Russia. The president went on to say that he wants to set up a meeting between Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, saying that he would try to get some territory back for Ukraine. President Trump said it was not up to him to make a deal. That's as President Zelensky has said tonight that Ukrainian intelligence shows that Putin has no plans to end the war.
But I'll be speaking to Zelensky. The next meeting will be with Zelensky and Putin, or Zelensky and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need, but I want to have a meeting set up between the two leaders. I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap, because there'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody, to the good, for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff for both.
Well, the president made those comments during a press conference where he announced that he's deploying National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. as part of his plan to, quote, rescue the capital city from crime. The president declared it Liberation Day for Washington, D.C., saying the city will be cleared up very quickly. During the president's announcement, members of the Free D.C. organisation held a rally outside the White House against the measures. 3 teenagers have been arrested over the murder of a man at a seaside resort. Kent police said the man in his 40s died after being attacked during an altercation on the Isle of Sheppey on the north coast of Kent. A police cordon has been set up in a large clearing behind the beach in the Laysdown-on-Sea resort. 2 boys aged 14 and 15 and a 16-year-old girl are being questioned over his murder. And detectives investigating a major fire which destroyed a historic former hotel in Worcestershire have arrested 2 girls. West Mercia Police said that the 13 and 14-year-old had both been released on bail as part of its inquiry into damage caused to the Grade 2 listed Raven Hotel in Droitwich Spa. Hereford and Worcester Fire and Rescue Service said 8 fire engines and multiple specialist vehicles were deployed to tackle the fire, which did not lead to any casualties but totally destroyed the building. Officers remain at the scene, the force said, and are asking the public to stay away from the area at this time. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Martin.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
And welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, earlier on today, Reform UK held the latest of its events for its crime crackdown campaign this summer, with today's focus on women's safety. And here's what my first guest had to say earlier today.
The invasion, and I use the word invasion because that is exactly what it is, of hundreds and thousands of undocumented men who've come from countries where violence is the norm and women are not even second-class citizens, is placing women and girls in grave danger. How many rapes is too many? How many sexual assaults is too many? When is this government going to wake up to the reality of what so many women and girls are experiencing? I believe this is now a national emergency and should be treated as such.
Well, women and girls safety has now become the lightning rod issue, certainly, of the political summer. I'm joined now in the studio by Reform UK Kent County Council leader Linda Kemp-Carron, as well as GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Let's start with you, if I could, Lyndon. So an epidemic of violence is sweeping through Britain, Reform UK said at today's press conference. You used the word invasion. Strong words. Tell us what motivates you to use them.
Well, it is an invasion. We've got these men, and it is mostly men, 90% men, more than 90% men in a lot of cases, despite what Labour would try and have us believe when that politician went on Newsnight and said there were women and children. Very, very rarely. These men are coming over, landing on my shores in Kent, in my county of Kent, day after day, hundreds at a time. They're not invited here. They are illegal. They should not be coming here. So, therefore, that is an invasion.
And tell us about the implications for women and girls' safety. We've seen a lot of court cases. Of course, we're hearing a lot of data. So how is this affecting women, certainly in your constituency?
Well, people are very worried. When I was out campaigning, before I got elected to Kent County Council, it was the #1 issue that came up on the doorstep again and again. Now, people aren't daft. They knew they were voting for county councillors, and they know that county councillors don't actually have the power to stop any of this. However, it came up again and again, and the people of Kent are utterly sick and tired of these boats rocking up on our shores and these men often landing, being taken to a hotel or a guest house, or right now in the heart of our communities, in smaller hotels. That's a really worrying thing. And then a lot of them just disappear. Where do they go? We know the government has lost 150,000.
Do you think there's been a sea change of political thought? The Prime Minister a year ago was calling people like yourself and your constituents far right. People will complain, but in the last couple of weeks, certainly, there seems to have been a real change for making this not just an argument about immigration per se, or the numbers, but flipping it into one of safety, for particularly for women and girls. It seems now that the optics have changed, and that's not a good look for the government.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it, when you get a political party like Reform that is full of people like me who are not afraid to say it how it is. Isn't it amazing how quickly the political temperature alters? Now, on the 10th of July, I held a full council meeting in Kent County Council. I debated a motion put by the opposition about protecting women and girls from violence. Now, not once in that motion did they mention illegal migration or men dressed as women accessing single-sex spaces. Now, both of those things have made women and girls less safe. But when we debated that in the chamber, we were called racist, bigots, xenophobes. Two of them stormed out. It was absolutely disgraceful behaviour. And yet now, just a month later, the whole country is repeating basically what we said in that chamber.
Nigel Nelson, let's bring you in now. Certainly the political mood has really changed around this topic. We're seeing these protests at asylum hotels now breaking out on a weekly, daily basis oftentimes. And the government has stopped calling people far right. Do you think that's because they got it cataclysmically wrong?
I think that a lot of ordinary people are getting out and protesting, that people are frustrated about what they see, and some of it is badged up by the far right. You get troublemakers coming along, but so far we haven't had much violence.
I'd like to know, what do you mean by far right, though? Who are you describing when you talk about the far right?
Well, the far right are the kind of people who ended up in Southport. So it is people who were...
concerned parents and concerned relatives?
No, formerly from National Action, formerly from the English Defence League. Those are the people I call...
all the people in Southport, was it? The people in Southport came out because 3 little girls had been murdered, stabbed to death in a dance class.
You were asking me the question about what I actually label far right, and that is what I label far right. So what you see at some of these things is troublemakers turning up.
Absolutely, but it happens on the other side as well. Look at what happened in Epping just a few weeks ago.
I appreciate there's the far left too.
There were people protesting quite peacefully,
excusing them from that.
And it was completely disrupted by the police bussing in and escorting the other side to the front of that demonstration.
I'm not exempting anyone on the far fringes of politics at all.
But Sir Keir Starmer has never called out the hard left. In fact, I've had Labour MPs on my show this past week saying, will you tell Stand Up to Racism, a proven antagonistic group of outsiders, to stay away? They wouldn't. They won't. Why not?
Well, I mean, both sides should stay away. But what we should do is not have these protests out of asylum hotels. What we should be doing is looking for an answer to those asylum hotels.
People are scared. People are scared because what's happening now, it's not about the hotels anymore. What's happening now, and this is why I wrote to the Home Secretary last week, the Home Office is now emptying the hotels, because that's what they said they would do in the Commons. They're now dispersing the migrants into the heart of our towns and villages. It's happening in Kent, and it's happening by stealth.
So hang on, do you prefer the hotels to actually putting them somewhere else?
They shouldn't be here in the first place. But the thing is, the government is not addressing the root of the problem. This is where we always
arrive at the problem, that we both agree we should not have people crossing the Channel to get to this country.
Good.
We both agree on that. What I don't hear from Reform, or indeed actually any other political party, is what you can do about it.
We are not in government yet. When we are in government, we will stop these people coming over in the boats. How? Their feet will not touch British soil. They will not land. We will stop those boats coming.
And where will they go?
We'll only have to do it a few times before the message gets through to the people smuggling gangs.
Where will they go?
The message will get through and the boats will stop coming.
No, hang on a sec.
The fact is, this government has not replaced the Rwanda plan with anything remotely sensible. I'm not saying the Rwanda plan was perfect, but at least it was a plan.
But we still are in a situation about where these people go. Even if Rwanda had taken off, we're only talking about a couple of hundred people going there.
But it is a deterrent. If they know
we don't know if it's a deterrent. We have no idea if that would have deterred anybody.
If they know their feet won't touch British soil, they will stop coming. That is a fact.
I know, but what you can't explain is how you stop them touching British soil. At the moment, we have a system whereby the only way you can claim asylum is if you're on British soil. That is the draw of Calais, so
we need to leave the
ECHR
ECHR for a start. That is the absolute first thing we need to do.
That'll deal with a handful of cases.
Then we possibly need to put an asylum processing centre somewhere else.
Indeed.
So that people who are genuine asylum seekers have got somewhere else to go that doesn't involve them landing on our shores and then disappearing into the communities.
Keir Starmer has been trying to do that. He went over to
Keir Starmer has done absolutely nothing.
And the Albanians didn't want it.
That's right. Live in a press conference. The Prime Minister was totally humiliated on the world stage.
Right. That is exactly the point. That other countries don't want, for instance, 25,000 asylum seekers traipsing across their land to claim asylum in Britain. That's the problem with it. This is why it's such a difficult...
Of course it's a difficult subject, but we have to find a solution.
I agree.
This is completely unsustainable.
But I haven't heard one yet coming from Reform.
We're not in power yet.
No, but I haven't even heard a policy that actually looks like a solution.
Well, leaving the ECHR is quite a good policy, I would suggest.
Offshore containment is a policy which has been put forward by the Reform Party quite a lot.
If you can do that, you've got to persuade a country to actually accept it.
British sovereign territory?
My point about Albania was that the Albanians...
The Ascension Islands?
There are lots and lots of
the Falklands? The Shetlands? Northern Ireland?
OK, if you take the islands, like Ascension or whatever, it's been considered, that under the Tories considered that one, you have to build a whole new infrastructure there to keep people.
That would be a lot cheaper than the current plans. We are spending billions and billions of pounds on these men who should not be on British soil.
And Lyndon, final word to you, because it seems to be the moment that a lot of people at the asylum hotels seem to be sticking up for the people in our communities who are causing these problems in terms of women and girls' safety. What's your message to the Prime Minister?
My message to the Prime Minister is please locate your backbone. Please act like you are the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and stand up for your own citizens.
Lyndon Cumcarron, we've got to leave it there. Beautiful stuff. Leader of Kent County Council, Nigel Nelson. An excellent ding-dong. Both sides of the debate talked about. That's what we're trying to do here on GB News. Fantastic stuff. Thank you both very much indeed. A fiery start to the show, plenty more to come. Now, in a moment, we speak to the man who revealed the bureaucratic sorcery that has led to a whopping 150,000 migrants simply going up in a puff of smoke. That's next.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. We're back for round two now in a move of bureaucratic sorcery. The government has confessed it has simply lost as many as 150,000 immigrants. Yes, you heard that right. That's the entire population of Oxford, simply gone up in a puff of smoke. Now, do you remember the fabled social care visa? Well, the route that was meant to help support the NHS, but it ended up opening the floodgates and allowing in 150,000 plus hundreds of thousands more of their so-called dependents. Well, the government has today admitted it doesn't even hold the data on if those migrants are still working in the industry or if they've even left the UK or not. They've simply disappeared into thin air. Does that give you great confidence in your government? Well, I'm joined now by the Conservative MP who uncovered this story, and that is Blake Stevenson. Mr. Stevenson, welcome to the show. What prompted you to ask the question about the missing migrants?
Very good question. Obviously, immigration is a top issue within the country. And what I've been doing, if you kind of look at my MP's page on the parliamentary website, is asking lots of questions to lots of departments, just trying to uncover just how crazy the state is and this government. So really, it was a series of questions that I've been asking, and really interesting answer we got back on this one.
And 150,000, that's, as we said, not an insignificant number of people. That is several football stadia filled to the brim. It's a Wembley and a half. It's an Oxford. And the whole point is a lot of these people came in on social care visas. Many of them worked in the sector for a short amount of time, if at all. We've seen numerous examples of scamming, but it seems astonishing they've simply disappeared.
Well, it's an absolute scandal. I mean, the government can tell us how many visas they have issued, which is good, but they can't tell us whether any of these people are still working in social care. So they really have lost control. They can't tell us whether people are complying with the conditions of their visa, which, you know, to me, that is a standard piece of work that the Home Office should be doing. If we have people out there that are not fulfilling the conditions of their visas, they should be deported.
Now, Blake Stevenson, a lot of people will say, of course, a lot of those people on social care visas, they were invited in by the Conservative government. Are you not partly responsible for this mess?
So, yes, I am a brand new Conservative MP, so I'm not encumbered with the past. And so I feel very free and very unencumbered to ask these kind of questions and to challenge and scrutinise the government. Yes, lots of people came in under this visa, and that was an attempt to fix the social care system and to get more labour into those jobs. That's an important thing we need to do. Fixing social care is very, very important. However, I am deeply unimpressed to now learn that we have no knowledge at all of the whereabouts of these people, whether they're actually helping us fix that social care crisis, which is totally unacceptable.
Blake Stevenson, and many people might look at this and just think we don't really know who's amongst us. We don't really have any Scooby-Doo whatsoever about the numbers. We don't know how many people are here illegally. And does your revelation simply prove We don't have a blooming clue how many people are here, where they're from, or even what danger they pose to us.
Look, if the government cannot answer this very simple question, what other questions can't they answer? It is clear that the immigration system is out of control, and it is very clear from the answer to this question, the Home Office and the Department for Health has absolutely no idea. I mean, what about those visas we are giving to people to go and work in other occupations that are outside of government? If we cannot understand who is working within government, how on earth are we going to understand who's working in the private sector?
I think you're exactly right. Thank you very much for joining us. Blake Stevenson, Conservative MP, for joining us on the show tonight. Spectacular. Let's get some reaction now from Nigel Nelson. Nigel Nelson, 150,000 people. That's a lot of people to lose down the back of the sofa.
They're not lost. At the moment, what the government is actually saying is they don't know where they are.
What's the difference between they don't know where they are and being lost?
Well, because we don't know that they're not actually complying with the visa requirements that they came in on, that they're actually still working in the social care sector. We don't know anything about that. So I tend to agree that it would be good to have that kind of information.
I quote, there is no official data directly linking visa status with ongoing residence in Britain.
Exactly.
They could be anywhere. Shake it all about.
Well, if they're out,
they could live next door to you.
Since 2015, we've had exit checks. So on the basis of that, we should know which ones have left the country.
Well, we should, but we don't.
Well, that's because they're not matching up the visas with the exit check. So that is a loophole that needs to be sorted out. Most of the time, you actually can do that. It's things like if you've got your indefinite leave to remain, for instance, and an old passport, you may not have that to hand. If you are a dual national, you may use a different passport to come in and a different passport to leave. So that messes up the system. Well, that messes up the system.
What system? Well, there's no control here.
It is, because we do know about people leaving the country and coming into the country. The point here is what you can't do is you can't actually make sure they're at the same employment, especially if they're in the private sector.
Well, yes, you could. You could say you have a care visa...
Which has been abolished, by the way, by Labour, bear in mind.
You could say you have a care visa or whatever it is, and that only entitles you to work in that sector. It's been widely reported. This has been open to huge amounts of abuse.
But that's true as well.
Nigerian companies pulling in people with no qualifications for working 20% below UK minimum wage. It's been exposed to the complete scam. They come in, they might not even work in a a single day. But once they're in the country, there's no chance of getting them out, especially when they go missing. The whole thing is a total farce.
But the majority would be working in the care sector. What they can do, obviously, is change their immigration status if they want to work elsewhere. And the whole point about immigration is to meet the needs of the economy. So the idea that some people might transfer to a different job is perfectly reasonable.
Why is it? If they came in on a care visa, as the left always like to say, we couldn't take care of our elderly without these immigrants.
Labour abolished them.
Then they suddenly decide, oh no, I've changed my mind, I want to work for Deliveroo.
Yeah, well, it's not so much for Deliveroo. It depends where the job might be. Yes, they came on. Yes, well, you don't know. People, the government don't know, and nor should they know actually exactly where everybody is being employed.
Yes, they should. That's the point of controlling your population.
So apart from the fact the government can see us on television, why should they know exactly our employment details?
What on earth are you talking about?
Us.
We're talking about...
It applies to everybody.
150,000 people who were invited by this government to take care of our elderly who aren't doing that anymore.
Well, we don't know that. Hang on. You're making assumptions. The government don't know what job they're doing. That is the admission that's been made by Stephen Kinnock here. And it doesn't mean they're not doing the job that they came in for.
And this is meant to send out a resounding vote of confidence in our government's ability
I think
to track and trace its population. You couldn't go for a pint during COVID without the government know where you are. How can we lose 150,000 people?
We haven't lost them, because I keep telling you that we just don't know necessarily where they are. And I do agree it's something the government need to tighten up on. They should do, especially if somebody has a visa, they should know exactly whereabouts that they are.
This points to a system governed by chaos.
Well,
shrouded in
this was a Tory system. It was brought in 2015. So the Tories are responsible for it. But yes, I agree with you that certain tightening up needs to take place, especially so as we know who is actually leaving the country when they do leave.
Which we don't know under this data that came out today. Nigel Nelson, semantics. potatoes, tomatoes, whatever you want to call it. You say they're not lost, but you qualify that by saying we don't know where they are. I would say by any definition, that means they're lost. Nigel Nelson, thank you very, very much indeed. Now, in a moment, I was speaking to someone who has uncovered something truly astonishing and deeply concerning about what British pensioners are facing at the moment. There's a crisis of safety amongst British pensioners. That's next.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The fourth heat wave of the summer is well underway, turning quite warm and muggy overnight, which could lead to a risk of thunder across parts of England and Wales. But for the majority, it should remain mostly settled. That's all thanks to high pressure situated to the east of the country, but where we see this frontal system lie across the far north of Scotland. More cloud here, some outbreaks of rain eventually pushing northeastwards into the Northern Isles. But it's this area across this south slowly edging its way northeastwards across Wales and central parts of England through the early hours of the morning. This is a chance where we could potentially hear some rumbles of thunder overnight. But tonight it is set to be particularly warm and muggy, especially across the south. Some towns and cities not dropping much past 18, possibly even 19 degrees Celsius. So a little bit uncomfortable for some. And then during the early hours of the morning, we'll still see some quite blustery outbreaks of rain across the far north of Scotland. But mainland Scotland should mostly be dry and bright overnight. We could start to see some of those heavy thundery showers pushing through into Northern Ireland and northern parts of England during the very early hours. But across the south, it should start to brighten up. But we could see some remnants of cloud across central areas for a time, eventually clearing away as those thundery showers continue to push their way northwards. And by the afternoon in particular, there should be plenty of blue skies. But once again, some quite hot temperatures, a little warmer compared to this afternoon, particularly across central areas of England, where we could start to see temperatures push into the mid-30s. But even across the north, even where we see those cloudier skies, still temperatures in the mid-20s. So it's going to be a hot, if not very hot day for many. And then through into Wednesday, the middle part of the week, fairly similar conditions. There are still a risk of showers, northeastern parts of Scotland. Later on across southern England, there is a chance of hearing some rumbles of thunder. But for many areas, once again, plenty of fine and dry weather. But from Wednesday onwards, we'll start to see a slight decrease in those temperatures. Nevertheless, though, it is going to continue to feel warm in that sunshine.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, in other women's safety-related news today, shocking new polling of Britain's pensioners has revealed an astonishing 94% of old-age pensioners who are women don't feel safe in modern Britain. But it doesn't end there, because this very same polling has revealed a whopping 56% of pensioners support net zero migration. Of course, that's a policy adopted by Reform. This is polling by the pensionervote.com. So perhaps it's no wonder that while pensioners' voting intention favoured the Labour Party by 9 points back in the last general election, as you can see on your screens now, that has now flipped, and Reform UK presently enjoys a 20-point lead ahead of the Conservatives, and indeed a 22-point lead over the Labour Party. I'm joined now by the man who conducted this poll. That's David Pinless. He's the founder of the pensionervote.com. David, always an absolute pleasure to have your company. Of course, you were one of those who had the loudest voice and fought the hardest over the winter fuel allowance being cut. That's how the pensionervote.com was born. And you sent me this polling on pensioner safety, and I've got to say, I found it heartbreaking.
Yes, well, you know, Martin, we have a government
that hasn't done what it said it was going to do, smash the boats, stop the boats, smash the gangs, and it has done what it didn't tell us it would do, scrap the winter fuel payment, introduce inheritance tax for farmers, reduce disability benefits. So by any metric, they got in by deceit, but they're not doing what they should do, which is their primary objective should be to focus on the safety of Britain's people. And I was staggered when we conducted this poll, especially to discover that 95% of women over 50, in fact, didn't feel safe. And, you know, I have changed my attitude over the past few years in that, for example, I wouldn't intervene if I saw somebody behaving badly, for example, on a train if they were playing loud music. I wouldn't intervene. If I saw somebody throwing rubbish on the streets, I wouldn't intervene because I'd be concerned they might pull a knife on me. So that demonstrates a change. I don't feel particularly safe. I'm a man. I don't feel safe in London, Manchester or Birmingham. I feel reasonably safe here in my village. But something has changed drastically. And so by any metric, this shows that something is profoundly wrong.
And David Pinless, it's 94% of females over 50. I thought it was pensioners. It's actually over 50. In many senses, that makes it worse. 76% of overall voters, 61% of the men polled. Yes. And let's talk next about the attitudes towards migration, because we hear oftentimes it's usually men who have a more hardline take, as it were, to immigration. But your poll shows us that it's women who are calcifying their opinions. And perhaps that's no surprise if they feel the most endangered.
Exactly, Martin. So unsurprisingly, women are now more against mass immigration than men, indeed, as the poll shows. And another thing that's been talked about, if I may introduce the subject, was eyesight tests for the over 70s. This relates to safety as well, because in my opinion, if I'm terribly negative, I would think the government here is introducing diversionary tactics to make us think that they care about our safety, when clearly they are not addressing the real issues that they need to do with our safety.
Yeah, in actual fact, the conversation around eyesight, compulsory eyesight bans for the over 70s implies that they're a danger to themselves and the public. And in fact, the similar conversation wasn't talked about by anybody with poor eyesight. It just seemed to be aimed at those over 70. Let's talk about the specific approach towards immigration, if we could. So this notion of net zero migration, until very recently, that would be considered quite a hard-line position. But you're telling me now that the majority of over 50s, and particularly women, that's their preferred option.
That's right. I think the Overton window, as it's called, has shifted. And whereas maybe 5 or 6 years ago, this didn't enter the public forum at all in any way, more and more people feel quite safe now to talk about net zero migration, even mass remigration, because people can see very clearly on their streets all the problems that we have. We have an epidemic of shoplifting. We have undocumented young men, some of whom are criminals. And people just don't generally feel safe. So they associate it, rightly or wrongly, with immigration. And our infrastructure is crumbling. People want net migration to fall. Probably
David Pinless, the founder of thepensionervote.com. Thanks for joining us. And please, anybody watching, go and sign up for thepensionervote.com. You can take part in their interactive polls, be a part of the database, which I think is shaming Britain. Pensioners feel sadly neglected by all of the big parties. David Pinless, pleasure to have you on the show as ever. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Back to studio, Nigel Nelson. The government's got a problem if it's losing the faith of British pensioners. A huge swing here against the two main political parties. It seems that the pensioner vote has been relied upon for too long, but when they don't feel safe, you're losing the room.
Yeah, and I think that the safety issue is obviously a major one. I mean, as we've talked about before, it is the fear of crime rather than the reality of it, which is usually the problem. Linking the two with migration, I think, is often unfair. This is something that Nigel Farage keeps doing. He mentioned recently Afghans, who he accused of being more likely to commit a sexual offence.
That's true.
Well, I mean, the figures he used were wrong.
No, they weren't.
Well, he said that they were 22 times more likely.
That's correct.
Actually, they're 3 times more likely.
Well, that's okay then.
No, it's not okay.
It's okay, they're only 3 times more likely to
What I'm
rape.
saying is that we ought to actually try and keep the figures right. So, for instance, that...
Where do you get your 3 times figure from? I'll explain where the 22 comes from.
OK, I get my 3 times from... He chose to use the annual population survey, which is done by the ONS.
The census.
Which asks about nationality.
Yeah.
The census then asks about country of birth.
Yeah.
So the figure he used was 13,000 by nationality, 13,000 Afghans divided by the number of offences, and got 22 times. Had he used the census figures of 86,000 Afghans, that figure becomes much lower.
You do realise you're saying it's fine.
I'm not saying it's fine.
Even by your data,
No, I'm not saying
which
I'm
I think is
accepting that
intrinsically
it is
wrong,
higher.
because they don't publish the actual data. And all we've been saying, Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates, who came up with that figure, and myself and every other journalist on this channel has been saying to the Home Office, give us the data. We get the real
what
data
I'm complaining
in
about is how figures are used.
We get it in Germany. We get it in Sweden.
Yeah, okay.
What are they afraid of?
Let's do a much simpler figure. 77 sexual assaults were committed by Afghans between 2021 and 2023. That compared to 14,000 native Brits who committed sexual assaults.
You understand per capita, don't you?
I do understand per capita, but what it means is you are more likely to be assaulted by somebody who is British than you are by an Afghan.
You are in absolute numbers. If you go to Nigeria, you'd be more likely to be assaulted by a Nigerian. This is nonsense, Nigel. This is precisely the sort of downplaying.
But it's the way figures are being...
about the political left. You're saying, oh, don't worry, you're only 3 times likely to be more likely to be raped, and at the same time downplaying the reality.
I do not downplay...
That's why people are losing faith in people like yourselves.
Downplay people being raped. I think it's an absolutely disgusting crime and absolutely awful for the victim. It's also awful that 60% of women don't actually go to trial because of the backlog in trying to get there.
On that, we can agree.
What we want is the rape courts that Keir Starmer promised, those specialised rape courts that he promised in his manifesto. We haven't got them yet.
And what we need is full transparency of data, so we don't have to do these workarounds.
No, I'm happy to have data. I wouldn't mind knowing...
So Keir Starmer has suddenly woken up to the fact he needs to do that because he's been shoved into it by Nigel Farage. It was only in the Southport saying you can't ask for the ethnicity of data. It's divisive.
Government is secretive under every party, but I agree with you, the more data we see, the better. I'd like to know how many CEOs are guilty of a sex crime, how many builders, how many lifeboatmen. I mean, you can actually go on and on and on as far as the data goes. But I don't see anything wrong with having the data in the first place.
Good, on that we can agree. Nigel Nelson, thank you very much indeed. Now, in a moment, could Keir Starmer face the same fate as Boris Johnson amidst allegations of misleading the House of Commons? Find out why he may have done that next.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, the heat wave continues across much of Europe. Plenty of hot sunshine to come. Could trigger 1 or 2 thunderstorms in places, particularly during the evening and overnight periods, but plenty of sunshine to come by day. Eastern Mediterranean temperatures reaching the mid to high 30s in places. 1 or 2 showers possible across Spain and Portugal inland, but coastal stretches temperatures well above average in that sunshine. And it remains hot and sunny for the rest of the week, temperatures above average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, do you remember when Boris Johnson was chased out of Parliament by the Privileges Committee for misleading the House over Partygate? Well, Sir Keir Starmer may well be facing the same fate now that a Freedom of Information request has revealed the true staggering cost of his Chagos Islands surrender deal. Well, this is what he said at the time.
The net overall cost is therefore £3.4 billion overall.
A piffling £3.5 billion, a figure that was fact-checked in real time by those far-right journalists at the FT. But it's now emerged today that the true cost was actually £35 billion. That's right, 10 times greater, after the government's fiddling with the figures. And having upheld the claim in Parliament, critics have suggested this amounts to a potential breach of parliamentary privilege. Well, I'm joined now by the spokesperson for Chagos Voices, Jean-Francois Nellen. Jean-Francois, always a pleasure to have your company. A lot of us were saying at the time the true figure was closer to £30 billion. Now it's over that, £35 billion. Do you believe that the Prime Minister has a case to answer to for fiddling the books?
Hi, Martin. Like I said, the Labour government has been misleading the Parliament since the announcement of that deal. Even like if we go back to October 2024, when David Lammy mentioned that he spoke to the Chagos Committee, which was not true. But now with the value or the amount they are going to be giving to Mauritius, I believe Nigel Farage did a documentary on this to say that will cost nearly £40 billion, which is now the truth is coming out. And at the time when Rachel Reeves is going to be hiking taxes in the autumn, I don't think this is a good thing for the British economy.
Well, I mean, a lot of people might say that £22 billion was the size of that so-called black hole. £35 billion is 50% on top with a bit of sugar on it. Jean-Francois Nellen, I want to ask you, in terms of the trust you can place in the Mauritian government, what might they do with 35 billion quid?
There's no trust at all in the Mauritian government, and this is the reason the Chagos was saying having like a trust fund putting out in Mauritius to be overlooked by the Mauritian government. There's no trust at all. If we go back to when the Chagos was forcibly removed from the Chagos and sent to Mauritius. There were £3 million given to the Mauritian government at the time. The Chagosian did not receive anything out of this. And there was another agreement that the Chagosian should be receiving plot of land in the southeast of Mauritius for the Chagosian to be connected with the sea, growing their own animal. If you go to Mauritius, you will see like all those big hotels in Mauritius. There's no trust at all with the Mauritian government. Besides, I don't know if you've seen in the news recently where the Prime Minister has been in court because they found like 224 million Mauritian rupees in his safe, not in the bank, in his safe, in his office. And the same thing happened with his predecessor, like Pravin Jagnnath, who negotiated the deal with the British government. He was done as well for having such amount of money with Rolex, pound notes and dollars in a suitcase.
And Jean-Francois, we've even heard allegations that this money might fund tax cuts for citizens in Mauritius. Isn't it astonishing that British taxpayers could be directly funding tax cuts in Mauritius? You literally couldn't make it up.
No, you can't. With the Labour government, you can't. Anything you need to expect. I don't know how they managed to become like, I mean, there's no word to describe them, by like govern the country. And all this is, like I say, it's down to the taxpayers' money that we are funding the Mauritian government for them to cut tax. But are they going to be cutting tax either, or is that the money that they will be distribute among their friends in Mauritius? Like, this is what we know the Mauritian government. They're so corrupt.
OK, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much for joining us on the latest chapter in the Chagosian farce. Thank you very much to spokesperson for Chagosian Voices, Jean-Francois Nellen. Back to the studio for the final ding-dong of the night with GB News senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Nigel Nelson, even the friendly FT on the day that Keir Starmer announced this would be a mere £3.4 billion, fact-checked it. They said it was closer to 10 billion. Now it's 10 times that, 34 billion. How's Sir Keir Starmer been borrowing Diane Abbott's abacus?
No, all those figures could be right. That's the problem with it, because it depends how you take them. So, excuse me, a pound today is going to be worth an awful lot more than in 99 years when because of inflation, when this deal will be over. So what Keir Starmer did was use 2025 prices rather than 21-24 prices.
Which is patently ludicrous.
Well, in fact,
because £1 now won't be worth anything near £1 in 30 years. So the whole thing was built on a scintilla of lies.
No, it was built on today's prices. So we had then Priti Patel, who has used the tomorrow's prices to work on the basis that this could have bought 10 aircraft carriers and 70 hospitals, which is equally false. What should happen now is that...
If I owed you £1 and I said to you, here's an IOU, I'll give you £1 in 30 years' time, without swearing, what do you tell me to do?
Well, I would tell you that I'm not going to take the deal because that £1 won't be worth £1.
And there we have it. That's the
point about this.
The
figure doesn't actually matter.
But
the figure doesn't actually matter. So what should happen is the Prime Minister should come to the House of Commons, answer a parliamentary question to explain exactly how he did his calculation. I don't doubt he put the best spin on it he possibly could.
The best spin is 1/10 of the actual amount.
But what I'm saying is that the best spin doesn't mean the figure was wrong. This is a political game being played. Priti Patel should go and get Keir Starmer before the Commons and ask the question.
If it comes out in the wash that Sir Keir Starmer manipulated, massaged, magicked, call it what you like, this figure to be 1/10 of its true value, the Labour Party and all of its supportive press were howling to the moon for Boris Johnson's scalp over Partygate. Should Sir Keir Starmer face the same kind of degree of probe?
No, because it's just a question of the way this figure is calculated. Yes, I appreciate quite a bit of spin was put on it.
Quite a bit of spin.
By using today's figures rather than tomorrow's figures, but that doesn't mean the figure was wrong.
It does.
It doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, if you said, if you calculate what a pound would be worth in 99 years' time and discovered how many more pounds you would need to actually meet today's pound, then you would find this £35 billion figure. That I can understand, and that's what I mean about both figures can be right. Lies, damn lies, statistics.
Is anybody else at home following this? Is anybody at home following, frankly, the tortuous mathematics of Nigel Nelson and the Labour Party? Oh, a pound now is patently worth a fraction of a pound in 30 years' time. That's the basic.
No, the other way round. A pound in 30 years' time will be a fraction of a pound now.
I can't believe I allowed you to fact check.
Inflation will take away its value.
Nigel Nelson, it's been a lively evening. It's about to get lively because I'm joining the studio, hoving interview like a vision. Tom Harwood, back for your second shift today. Quickly, what do you make of the mathematics of the Labour government over this?
I think that there is a clear inconsistency here. Just a couple of weeks ago, when Angela Rayner announced a big lot of money for social housing, she did exactly the opposite thing. She used the bigger number with the inflation taken into account to make it seem like she was spending more because it's something the government wanted to be seen to be spending money on. But when it's something the government doesn't want to be seen to be spending money on, they choose exactly the opposite measure. So yes, lies, damned lies and statistics.
And the Labour Party's calculator, which probably needs a short circuit. You're covering tonight State of the Nation, of course. What's on your menu, Captain?
Well, State of the Nation, state of Rachel Reeves's economic dashboard. The red warning signs are flashing. There's a new report out today that shows employment, payroll, permanent employment, a further steep decline. Fewer and fewer jobs out there, vacancies shrinking. And pay increases the weakest since the pandemic. It's a bleak picture, and how on earth is the Chancellor going to catch up? Also, we've got the inimitable Maggie Oliver on the show to talk about the state of safety for women and girls in the United Kingdom, following on from that Reform press conference today. And of course, Sir John Redwood and Stephen Pound, my panel, will be analysing and dissecting the state of all the stories. One final story as well, Clive of India, the magnificent statue that sits between the Treasury and the Foreign Office. Well, one former Labour frontbencher is calling for it to be torn down. I'm going to be debating with an Indian journalist who thinks it should be.
Why? Let me guess, it's racist?
Well, Clive of India was a controversial colonialist who helped to secure a lot of India for the East India Company, and a lot of people don't like the fact of that. I'm going to argue that our history is our history, warts and all.
OK, beautiful stuff. State of the Nation is up next with Tom Harwood, your host. I'll be back tomorrow 3 till 6. Thanks to Nigel Nelson. It's been a beautiful show. See you tomorrow. Cheers.
Today, clouds overhead.